Find yourself a booth, order up a cold one. This is the Spring Bar. Today's episode sees us discussing zombie brands, resurrected names, and spin-offs. Up first, we'll discuss Smiths, then Aquastar, and then finished up by Accutron's story. These watches started off strong, something happened, they faded out, and then someone was kind enough to steward them back to health again. And we are rooting for them, hoping that they stay in the fight longer. As always, I'd like to encourage you guys to send your drink and wristwatch checks to us by hashtagging the Spring Bar Podcast. And as always, your drinks don't have to be alcoholic, but you have to be fun. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. I'm Casey, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, a gentleman who sings his watches to sleep at night, Florida Mike, and a man who said to have played 7 instruments at once, Joe and the OC. Gentlemen, how are you guys today?
Well, now I realize that Joe's the one playing the melodies for my singing. It's a little creepy.
It's a duet from hell.
Team effort.
On your toes.
Doing good, gentlemen. How are you, Casey? How you doing?
Good, man. Good.
All right.
I actually got to add a new coin here real quick. I'm just going to flash it.
Ooh.
But Marine Corps, because my little brother graduated and we picked him up, and he is on his way to the infantry schoolhouse where he'll, air quotes, be a rifleman first. Yeah, we'll see about that. But yeah, what about you guys?
So could you get him to stand at anything other than parade rest?
Oh, well, for me, as a commissioned officer, he should be standing at attention.
Fair. So now we can see how the pecking order at the dinner table is going to work.
I was just going to say, that'll be an interesting Thanksgiving.
Right? But I can't see this. Like, pass me the potatoes. Now. I can see that coming.
But so does anyone have new watch alerts? And I think we all do because of a very generous donor.
Well, allow me to begin then. Allow me to begin.
Please do.
The Lady G. I found it. It's pink.
The
I got
Spring
one.
Bar infamous
Lady G. And because the quote was to buy watches, what would you buy for a friend? Or if you were spending the friend's money, I spent some money on some friends. And I also will be drinking the Devil's Creek Distillery Rye to go with all of that because I deserve it.
I'm proud of you for pouring that drink.
Well, it's been a day. I've been at jury duty all day.
So,
yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
Did you get the lunchtime cut? I take it then?
No, I did not get the lunchtime cut. I came back after lunch and then got cut.
Oh, okay.
So I got my full day's worth. Feeling very, very comfortable.
You earned that $17.
I certainly did. Well, I earned something.
Hey, thank you for your service.
Yeah.
And then I got this just today. I haven't even taken a look. So brand new.
Ooh.
Uh-oh, what else did you
Brand
get?
new. 2 pieces.
Generally, I know what it is that you order, but I can never keep them straight.
This one's subtle. I don't think I even told anybody.
Super.
Oh,
Carabelle
Bezel?
oh, it's a bezel.
Yeah.
For which one?
Another Sea Hunter bezel?
Yeah, it's another Sea Hunter bezel. I've got a couple. This one's kind of chewed up. It's all right. It's all right. Having that extra to go in there to just trying to get things to look kind of fresh, you know?
Yeah,
Those
I
bezels
know.
get chewed up. So that's what I got. Casey, what do you got?
Well, I mean, again, my sugar daddy hooked me up here with a G detector. Which this one's
you mean he got you one? Lucky dog.
Well, I'm gonna modify this. I've already got some parts in. I've got a rose gold Casio case, and I might do some things with the numerals. I don't want to completely ruin the rose gold effect, but I think a majority of it will be covered with luminous weapon sight paint, so it's I don't know, better at night, hopefully. So and I cannot believe this is what I'm going to be saying for my waitlist update, but I actually got the freaking phone call today while I was working out. And
Yes.
so I just come back from a 2 mile run. I'm in the middle of my, push-ups and do whatever the hell. So I'm not really thinking. I get this phone call and I almost was like, who is this? Hey, Casey, I got a 36 mil Explorer for you. Do you want it? And I'm like, well, yeah, sure. Okay, whatever. Yeah, let's do that. And then we hang up and go about our business. And I finish up my workout. And the whole time I'm like, did I just get a phone call for a Rolex? And then I have to call him back. And I'm like, hey, man, can you explain that I've got a Rolex Explorer waiting and he's put it in the safe, got my name on it, and I'll pick it up this weekend.
So is this because the last episode you had said there was one AD that you preferred out of the others? Is it this guy or is this one of the other ones?
Yeah, it's actually the guy I really like working with.
The guy okay. So is he the one that you went to every weekend and brought him donuts and pestered him and?
I actually pestered them all evenly. So,
Okay.
so when I would
For
visit
science.
one, I'd have like a little route I'd run, and I would go pester them all.
Well, very cool. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
we'll congratulate you when it's in hand.
There it is.
Yeah, we don't want to jump the gun yet.
That
well,
unboxing
didn't
video.
happen.
Yeah, there better be one hell of an unboxing video.
Well,
How about
y'all make
special
it cry and
effects?
shit. I'd like to thank the Academy.
I'll play some instruments for you. It'll be fine.
Yeah, Joel will lull you to sleep with his 7 instruments.
So what about
what are you drinking?
Oh, what am I drinking? Oh, snap.
Yeah.
Well, it's in my little German Shepherd drinking koozie, but it's that Mountain Dew Major Melon.
Is this your new favorite dew?
Yeah, yeah.
Do the do.
So,
Very cool. All right, so I'll go.
What do you got?
Um, I also have a Lady G.
Hey, you found it!
Look at that. So the three of us are Lady G experts now. This is white on white on white with a little bit of silver. I like it. Goes with the Florida sun quite well.
That was my thought.
I also have something else.
Ooh.
We knocked down another Jetstar.
that's awesome.
That's really nice, dude. That one, I'm more impressed with that, I think, than with some of the others. I mean, the yellow is nice. That one's subtler, though.
I agree.
This is taking some time to grow on me because this is not typically my style. I like the more funkier designs and things like that, and the brighter colors.
Like any good fungus, it's going to take a minute.
I think the one big thing that really bothers me the most is it's a 20 millimeter strap, which I think is almost too wide for this case. It's almost too much in a line form.
Do you want a 19 mil?
No, I think 18 would have suited it a little bit better.
Different taper to the lugs. You know what would be really curious, though? Like maybe a gold mesh?
So
But you have to get a good taper on it.
I found a gold stretch bracelet that's not the original, obviously, but very similar style to what the original one was. I have it in my watch list on eBay, so I think I'll probably end up picking it. I think it's like $25, something like that. You can't go wrong with it.
Well, hey,
but I think that's what it needs.
For a novice like me, how hard was it to find that?
Oh God.
The
watch?
Well, yeah, not
so if you know what you're looking for, they're out there. I think there's one or two more that are on eBay, but they're not listed as Jetstars because this is not really a model that you associate with the Jetstar line. People are thinking more of the popular stuff like the Coke version, the Stars and Stripes.
Yeah.
The D that I have that's got the blue anodized bezel on it.
Yeah.
Those are the more popular Jetstar ones. So these kind of fly under the radar, and people will list them and they don't know any different. So you got to know
that other gold one too that's got the different.
There's the other gold one, and in fact that one ended. It didn't sell. I think it was listed for $59. I messaged the guy and I said, hey, if you want to sell it, I'll take it off your hands for $40. And I haven't heard back from him yet. It hasn't been relisted. So either he hasn't checked his messages yet or he's just not interested in it.
Is it a gold plated?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How is that holding up?
This actually quite well. There's not, well, this almost seems to have been taken care of, pretty well over its life. So there's not many scratches in that. There's not much in the way of there's really not any sharp edges on it, which
Right.
I think is keeping it in nice condition because there's no sharp edges to be rubbed away. It's just very nicely rounded all the way around it. So it's held up very well.
I know that like the bigger issue for trying to find those watches, and it's one that I suffer with because you said, okay, I'm interested in Jetstars. Like, okay, cool. What do they look like? And I know that I've done this to you a couple of times, and I'll see something. It's like, ooh, is this it? Is this one? This looks like one. Is it one? And you said to Mike, like, look at this. And he's like, that's not it. I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
So like you got to know. You have to know what they are because nobody else does.
In fact,
nobody knows what they are.
remember you had brought up that the square blue dial.
Yeah.
Okay. So you had said there's a white dial version of that.
Yeah.
So I found pictures of it online and some pretty good close-up pictures of it. And if you look at it very closely, and I'll have to send you the picture later on, when you get to the edge of the case towards the lugs, it has a little beveled edge on it.
Oh.
And that is not
It's not it.
on there in the normal Jetstar version. So it's slightly different case-wise.
Ah.
So that wouldn't make it, a variant of that particular Jetstar. I think that's the C.
All right. So then, Mike, what's in the cup?
So I am drinking. It's 19 Crimes, Snoop Dogg, Cali Rosé.
California.
Yeah. It's not bad. We came into this bottle by pure happenstance. I figured, what wacky thing could I drink? It's not horrible, really. This is not the best, but it works in a pinch.
Fair enough. So let's get into some wrist checks here. So Casey, what do you got?
Oh shit. Oh. Okay, I actually take mine off. But yeah, I've got my Faco on, and I wasn't wearing the Faco until I got the call, and then I was like, shit, I have to wear this now.
So what are you going to do with it?
I'm probably gonna try to sell it.
There you go.
There you go.
Not bad.
Or maybe it will still, because I'm not confident I'm taking that Rolex with me to this school because I think that would be stupid. So maybe I'll take this with me instead.
Yeah,
that's a decent beater.
Yeah.
You're not going to go wrong. Well, I have on my Setomatic A-Date 666 with the super cool Lexan markers. A little bit of loom and some busted loom on the hour hands, but the nice lollipop seconds hand.
And that stadium bezel.
And the stadium bezel. Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's what makes it, I think.
It's
between that and the markers.
It's a toss-up. It's like it could have a beveled bezel and it'd be okay, but the stadium bezel, the angles work out right.
Yeah, that's cool.
What is it?
I am wearing the Casey's probably gonna yell at me for saying it wrong, but the Flederman von Rist Municher. Or Muncher.
Hell yeah. Hey, if you're going to butcher it and go all out. That's what's up, man.
The Flederman von Rist Munchner.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Casey, say it with the right accent. Give us a schooling.
So it's, I read it as Flederman von Riste, and it's a Münchner.
Oh, see.
Münchner?
Münchner.
Münchner.
Weil ist aus München.
Ja, aus München.
Ja, genau.
Von
couldn't,
Rieste. Ja.
but I can say Schumacher.
There you go. That was aggressive as
Getting
hell.
there. It was aggressive.
German in and of itself is aggressive.
Mike,
Yes.
tell us about the watch.
So this is a pre-production prototype version that we've been sent. We've been wearing these for about a week and a half now. It comes in, Joel's holding it up, a really nice wooden box.
Well, wooden box, if you care about your wooden box, but I've got the linen one.
Ooh.
A linen box, he says.
Well, the wooden one's inside.
Oh, bait and switch.
But
You sneaky Flutterman.
that wooden box that comes in the linen box also comes in a box that's about the size of a shoebox.
It's a big box.
It's
But then
a
they put
box
the
and a box and a box.
Bigger box.
Yeah. And that was inside a bigger box. That is true. When I went to go pick this up, they handed me that, and I'm like, this can't be it.
It's
So
something else.
we'll be doing a review episode on this. I'm not exactly sure when. In the very near future, we'll be doing an episode going through this and just giving our thoughts on it. Talk about our likes, our dislikes, the different design elements, because they claim that this is contains a lot of design elements from where, Casey?
Oh, München?
Munich.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. This is our first review piece for the show.
It is.
So we're excited to move forward with this.
Real good. Big props to them though for sitting out 3.
Mhm.
Into 3 separate areas too. It's not like we all have the same PO address. It was a big move on their part, and that they took a risk on us, and that was very, very kind.
Big props to that, and even bigger props for not trying to buy us, because they're not paying us. We don't get to keep these, and while we're not going to be completely horrible with them, but it takes a lot of strength and courage to be like, hey, here you go, no strings attached. Tell me what you think.
It is.
And especially for their very first production piece.
Yeah.
Right. It hasn't even dropped on Kickstarter yet, right?
No, it has not. It was supposed to be in April. It got pushed back to May now. So, but we'll get into it. We'll get into it more. So if you're interested in it, we've posted about it on our pages, on the show page. So if you want to hear more about it, then, listen up. We'll definitely let you know when the episode's coming out.
Yep. So, guys, what's on tap today? Or actually, let's and actually have one of you guys ask me.
Yeah, because you're going to introduce it. So.
Yeah. But I like that what's on tap today thing. I like to keep that.
That's fine.
Yeah. No, we'll go with that.
You want to do it, Mike?
All right. Yeah. So, gentlemen, what do we got tap? Crap. See? First time I do it and I fuck it
There
up.
it is. Fucking it up.
All right. Ready? All right, gentlemen. So what do we got on tap today?
So today we're going to discuss zombie brands, resurrected names, and spin-offs, however you want to consider them. And so on tap for that selection, we've got Smiths, Aquastar, and Accutron. And I'm going to take point here and jump into Smiths. I'm going to pull up my notes here.
So Smiths, right, is famous as the Everest watch, right? That's about it. Were they part of the Dirty Dozen?
I'm actually not certain. I didn't see that, but they do have a very long heritage of manufacturing for the military. But I'll get into that.
Okay.
So when we discuss Smith's watches, there's kind of 2 arenas that Smiths exists in, and I've characterized it as old Smiths and new Smiths, which might not be the way that Smiths fans want to see it, but look, I'm not a Smiths fan. I'm just a dude who did some research. Okay. So old Smiths is everything up until the 80s when the Smiths essentially died and kind of petered out. And I would recommend you go to a website called smithswatches.com because they've got plenty of really good articles about the nitty gritty little specific models, tons of information. You can buy Smiths, vintage Smiths from them. You get them new old stock sometimes, box and papers. Pretty cool. The guy who runs it is very knowledgeable. You can also hop on eBay and maybe scoop up a good deal from time to time. And then New Smiths is owned by a gentleman called, let's see here. There we go. Ooh. James Mearns, or Mearns. I'm probably butchering his name. Sorry, RIP to your name. But if you want New Smiths, you're gonna have to jump on timefactor.com, and that's the company that produces modern Smiths watches. So the Smiths Watch Company was founded in 1851 by Samuel Smith. And this was back when the British Empire was the empire that the sun never set on. And back in the, I think, those 1880s, well, not Swiss, but the British Empire controlled 50% of the horological market. And when I say horological market, I mean clocks, really anything that measured time. If you wanted the quality piece, you didn't get a Swiss watch, you got a British watch. And then closer towards the early 1900s, World War I, they started petering off. And I'm not entirely sure why, but they switched their emphasis from manufacturing clocks for everyday use or nautical use and directed it more towards the emerging automotive and aviation industries. So they made speedometers for cars, clocks for cars, and excuse me. This is actually where they picked up their royal signet. Actually, it's not the right term, but it's when a company is recognized by the royals of England. I want to say it's a commission. Anyway, it's a royal brand. So there's select brands that are recognized by the royal family as royal brands. So that's kind of a cool badge of honor that they hold. And the reason why they actually got that was because a Smith's watch made its way into one of the king's cars. And from there, that was their in. The First World War, they're producing a bunch of aviation stuff. This is where they lay the foundation for their aviation experience. And then the Second World War, between the first and second, they kind of fell off a little bit. They were just kind of a general watch maker. But then everything picked up again for the Second World War, where they again made timepieces for aviation. And they also made military watches, and I'll point out some of their military products, but I don't think they did the Dirty Dozen watches. Let's see here. So post World War II is where they really had their boom, because the British economy needed to be revived, and what better blow your money on than watches? And I think we are all a good example of how we support our economy by buying a bunch of freaking watches. So they were big enough at one point to be able to build a housing area for their employees called the Smiths Estate. And from what I see, it's still around. I don't know if that really would have been, it's like buying from the company store, where if you live in the company housing area, that docks part of your pay or not, but I don't know.
More than likely, it's just to get everybody close by, and you eliminate the commute. You make it easier for work-life balance. I mean, it was popular in a lot of other industries.
Yeah,
post-war, pre-war too.
So they had that, which is obviously convenient for their. I keep wanting to say troops, but their employees. All right, blah, 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 blah. They supplied the famous Everest expedition, the one that Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay conquered the mountain. And this big controversy between, oh, was it Smiths or Rolex emerged. And if you want to learn more about that, head over to Time Hack. It's a YouTube channel I run. And I did a review of the Smiths Everest and kind of broke down my interpretation, very loose historical interpretation of how that went down.
Was that a shameless plug?
Sadly, they died off in the 80s, and there's a couple of thoughts behind why that may have happened, and these come from the current brand name owner because he's a huge Smiths nerd. Like, this is much like how Joe and Mike specialize in the ABC brands. He specialized in Smiths before it was popular to do so, back when they just recently died. And so he suggests that Smiths had become this budget watch. They got associated with essentially a Timex level watch. And that's not to throw shade on Timex, but if you wanted a cheap, well-built watch, you go for a Timex.
There's other options.
Yeah. So are you about to throw in Invicta?
No.
No, I'm saying if you want a cheap watch, there's other options other than Smith.
Right. No, but in the UK,
Timex.
in the
Yeah.
UK specifically, that was one of their budget watches. The other issue came down to finishing and tolerances. It wasn't as good as the emerging dominance that became the Swiss watch industry because they weren't switching out the tooling as much. So some of the tolerances between these watches you'll find vary greatly. And obviously that reflected in how they performed. So anyway, they die, and then James here buys the name. And then makes it into this modern Smiths brand. And so I'm going to go rattle off a couple of accomplishments and notable watches that I think you should look at least I find interesting. Number one accomplishment was that I already cited that this is a royal brand. It's a brand recognized by the imperial royal family of Great Britain, or however you say that. Listen, my people fought a war to get away from the kings. So look, I'm not an expert on that stuff. If you need me to make some tea, meet me at the harbor.
Man.
So I'm going to point out some of the modern Smiths that you can find on Time Factors. And
So these are all currently available?
Yeah, you can get these. The way their store works is they open maybe twice a month, because I don't think their scale is the production scale is very big. These watches are crazy. Modern ones, if you can get your hands on one, you can flip them for a good profit. Essentially
really?
scaled down version of Rolex, just
Really?
because they're so difficult to get your hands on. Yeah, if you get yourself a Smith Everest, I see them listed for $1,000+ Whether or not they sell for that, I don't know, but it's a $400 watch being sold for that.
I've seen them at around $750.
That's probably what they go for, and that's
Yeah.
So one of the things about the modern Smiths brand is they kind of are a homage watch builder. And in a sense, I kind of think that's important for brands that are trying to regain their relevancy. You kind of need to go with what's popular, what's going to get your name out. So there's a lot of homages to Rolex watches, specifically the Explorers. And one I'd like to point out is the Smiths Commando PRS 47. And this one's cool because it's a homage to a Rolex watch that was sold only to U.S. service members on post. So it's very rare to find. There's pretty much no way, unless you're Richie Rich, Scrooge McDuck, you might be able to get yourself a real Rolex Commando. But Smiths has an alternative for you, and it's a damn good watch. I also would say you should check out the Smiths Everest Expedition PRS 25 EXP. This is a homage to the watch that actually went up with Sir Edmund Hillary to the Everest expedition. But what you should know about this watch is it's not a one-for-one replica of the watch that was taken up. It is genuinely a homage. It has a lot of the original characteristics, but it's kind of been revamped. It looks a little different. It's fun. It's new. And honestly, if I were going to say, hey, buy a modern Smiths, this is the one I think you should go with because it carries a genuine story and it's not a copy or a homage to anything other than what it actually is. It doesn't have to, run behind Rolex.
So if it's not a 1-to-1, how is it different dimensionally? Is it larger?
So it's gonna have Rolex Explorer dimensions. So I think it's probably a little larger. I haven't actually looked at it, but the dial is different. It's kind of got a stepped dial, and the hands are a little different, but they keep the same blued color scheme. You're not going to get legit blued like you would from the vintage one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I'm looking at their website right now, and they stipulate that strictly 2 maximum per customer. That's how tight they control the release of these watches.
So do
really
they
interesting.
Do they just make a run of them, or do they produce them in limited numbers? Like, are they a limited edition?
No, it's not a limited edition. It's just, they try to keep up. They produce a batch and they're like, hey guys, this is it. First come, first serve. And then they
put out what they put out.
Yeah, so you get a limited drop, but they do
Yeah.
drops.
And they sell out real fast. And then the last modern Smiths that I would want to draw your attention to is a Smith vintage case PRS 36. And what I like about this is it is a homage to one of their earlier Smiths watches. It's got a very vintage cushion case, sub-second style, onion crown. So it's kind of a fun watch.
Yeah.
So that'll segment me into the vintage watches that I think you should take a look at. Let's see if my notes populate again. So the vintage cushion case that I think the modern one homages is a JW Benson Smith's 15J 9CT square. Why it has to have
an Omega number? What the hell was that?
Say that again.
Damn good question. Yeah, I don't know. It's just it's whatever the hell. But it's a sweet watch, and you can find it on smithswatches.com. It's got a gold case, blued hands. Cool watch. Then, of course, you should look at...
So hold on, that's a vintage one?
Yeah.
And you can buy vintage pieces through their website?
It's a different website. I don't know if it's run by the same guy.
Huh.
Smith's Watch Fan 69 on Instagram.
Yeah. 69 specifically.
I need to set up that account now. Hang on. Give me a second.
But I would say go take a look at their Everests. And the Smiths Everest came out obviously after the Summit, because who wouldn't market the crap out of that? So they're not necessarily going to be the watches that went up. If you want the one that went up, I believe it's the Deluxe A404. And if you go on the smithswatches.com website, you can see a photograph of the one that was issued to Sir Edmund Hillary. And kind of my 2 cents on that, I kind of think it was both brands were there, because Sherpa Tenzing Norgay was given a gold Rolex Oyster Perpetual for his previous attempt to conquer the mountain. And I think he was carrying that with him because, I mean, he's partial to that. So I think both watches were there. But anyway, that is the story of Smiths.
So did they get caught up in the quartz crisis like many companies did at all?
I would imagine so, because they ended up falling off the map here during the 1980s.
I don't see how they couldn't. Like, if the brand didn't continue past the 80s, that's quartz all over.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's just how
But
it goes.
they didn't take part in it then, I take it.
Well, they were so small at that point, and I don't know how their marketing had been, but it seems like they had railroaded themselves into the budget market and they weren't associated with the quality that the Swiss were putting out.
Right. Yeah, I get it. I get it.
So,
All right. What you got, Mike?
All right, so I've got Aquastar, the history of Aquastar. Let me tell you something. Going through and doing the research, there's a lot of history in Aquastar, and I had to try and narrow this timeline down, really the condensed version of it. Um, it's such a beloved brand, especially by divers and sailors alike. So I'll get started here. Um, Aquastar was founded in 1962 by Frederick Robert. He was a diver and sailor. He wanted to develop specialized watches and instruments for diving and sailing. Um, he actually took over the company from his father. It was originally called Jean Richard, and he changed the name to Aquastar to better put a brand more in line with what his visions were, as far as being able to use them for sailing and diving. Uh, excuse me. You're gonna have to edit that.
no, I'm keeping it
So
in note here.
within the first 10 years of the company, they were awarded several patents for things like the inner rotating bezel used in the Model 63, the decompression bezel on the Deep Star, the Benthos 500 case design, which was a seamless solid steel case, which was their first 500-meter watch. The regatta timers. They held a patent for both the movement and the dial. This is actually kind of cool. Um, it was a modified Lamania 1341 flyback with a yacht timer feature. And they're the ones that adapted that yacht timer feature to the chronograph movement. So they hold the patent for that. And also they are the first ones to design the 5-dot regatta timer dial. So they hold the patent for that as well. So I thought that was kind of neat. And also they have their own special crown sealing system. Exactly what that is, I didn't really get into that too much, but that was implemented on every Aquastar since they developed that. So that brings us to 1975. Aquastar was acquired by the Iron Group. So previous to this, Aquastar was only sold to professional divers and sailors in very specialized shops. It was never brought mainstream. It was never really sold to the public. It was very specialized. So when it was acquired in 1975, that's when Aquastar started to become more mainstream and began to get the name out of there, began to get more popular. And they continued making mechanical watches, divers and yacht timers until 1982. So that is when Aquastar was acquired by, and I'm probably going to say his last name wrong, Mark Sennett. At that time, he started using quartz movements. He even developed a all plastic watch with a
Oh
quartz movement
yeah, that's right.
because his philosophy was the mechanical watch that typically was passed down in generations was not appealing to the younger generation of that time. So he wanted to come up with something more innovative and more hip to appeal to the younger crowd. So he developed this plastic cased quartz watch, which apparently did very well for them. But they put quartz movements in a lot of their yacht timers. They also did hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So they continued the production of mechanical watches alongside with the quartz watches until 1982, which the company was then, nope, I take that back. edit that shit out. Um, so they continued using the quartz movements. Later on in the years, they also added digital LCD yacht timers. Um, and then they kept that production going until 2018, which is when everything kind of stopped. They don't really give a reason why. They didn't say if the company fell apart, what happened. Just that all production stopped in 2018.
I wouldn't have put them
So
that late. 2018 seems
I wouldn't have
really.
either. So really, when you look at it, the company was only really dead for 2 years, from 2018 to 2020. I think it's just that they got into these weird quartz and LCD yacht timers, and it just a very niche market, and they weren't really appealing to the masses at that point. And unless you had need or just wanted to buy something real wacky, you really wouldn't look to Aquastar for anything, really.
Huh.
So they were just in a weird, funky spot. So 2020, this is when Aquastar really started to make its comeback, and everybody's starting to talk about them again. They were bought by Rick Murray,
All
who
right.
owns the Synchron Group. So he's been responsible for reviving Doxa, Aquadive, um, Tropic, and Isoframe. So he really is no stranger to, if you want to call it the reissue game or revival, however you
Cashing
want
in.
to.
That's all that matters. He's cashing in major.
He is, and what's brought him the success in bringing these companies back is he introduced online sales to these Swiss brands, which I didn't realize that nobody was really doing this up until very recently.
Not direct to consumer. No, they were all off of the same brick and mortar model forever. And like
Yeah,
the Kickstarter brands, like the small the micro brands who were doing the direct to consumer stuff, like they couldn't believe what that market was doing. And so nobody had gone that route for a little while. It's interesting that he's the one who made that switch.
and he's the one that started getting these companies to start marketing that way, and that's really what's bringing a lot of these companies back. Um, so now we have the new Deep Star and the Deep Star 2, and they, like Smiths, they did pre-orders. They sold out very fast. I don't believe you can buy a Deep Star anymore. Um, you have to go
No.
secondhand for those.
Yeah, you gotta go.
Um,
You gotta know a guy.
yeah, they were doing
That
the
is not what
the
I heard. I heard you have to go suck a hand.
they were doing the Deep Star 2s.
Anyway,
Right.
So that's where we're at. That's the Aquastar in a nutshell. Yeah, I don't know where to go with it after that.
hey, look, man, I don't know what the suck a hand market looks like, but I don't want to be part of it.
Looks like an Aquastar. Good thing they're waterproof.
Uh,
Well, I will be discussing Accutron, which is slightly different than the other two that we're talking about. Smith's had a longer window of on operation. Aquastar had only a brief window of lack of being a company. Accutron is kind of a whole different story. So, 58, Max Herzl goes to work for Bulova, and he's already got the tuning fork mechanism kind of in his head. They decide to start doing that, and they move through and they market it. And Accutron comes onto the market in like October 1960, right around then. And it's a unique movement because it doesn't use anything that's mechanical. It's got a vibrating tuning fork, and it's oscillating, and that is what's keeping this second hand, and it's moving in a very smooth, sweeping fashion. And because it was an electronic watch, because it was space aged, because of all of these different things, you've got all of the models that start coming onto the market with like the 214. There was a big push to try to get that as part of the Moon Watch, and because the Apollo program had already been started, and there were testing that was going on. They lost out on being the official NASA watch, the designated NASA watch. However, a lot of the product did get into the lunar module, into a variety of different other satellites and various other space applications. And
Which are
that's just
still up
because-
there.
But yeah, and it's still there, still there.
Mhm.
Question whether or not it's working. I'm curious about the battery length.
Yeah. No.
Probably not. That's my guess. But I'm willing to bet that if you take it down, there won't be any oxidation, so it could be good. Love to see that one if it ever comes down. So Accutron does well, and I mean it was more expensive than some Rolexes at the same time, and was being sold. The marketing for it was absolutely phenomenal because that's where the whole Space View watch comes into play. They were sent out as sort of dealer samples. It's like, okay, we're going to pull the dial off. We're going to show you the movement. You can really take a look at this. You can check it out. You can see what's going on. And somebody's like, well, I want that one. So they started selling those. They started selling conversions. And if you get into the Space View market, good luck. Because you got to figure out what's factory, what's not, what has been converted into a factory, what has not, what is a mangle. So
It'll make your head spin.
It's a minefield. It's a real minefield. And so, tread lightly. Do your research before you go down that route. As soon as the 214 movement comes out, they start branching out, and then you get in quick succession. You get the 218, the 219, the 2221, and it sort of starts spiraling. They also market that technology to a couple different European brands, and so Omega had some. Titus and Silville bought some Omega. So there's a few else that are out there.
Yeah, the Omega Speed Sonic.
The F300, right? And it is a licensed movement. It's different, and so it's not exactly comparable, but it's close. The Soviets also made a copy, and those parts are almost a straight one-to-one match. Yeah, there's a Russian copy of it.
I highly doubt that was licensed.
Absolutely not. And it potentially when they tried to start shooting down the U-2s and all the rest of them, because this was the watch of choice for the Project Oxcart and some of the CIA flyers, because it did not get affected by heat. And those guys are in the water-cooled suit because they were moving at such high speeds that the friction on the outside of the plane was causing the inside of the canopy to just heat up so much. So they weren't affected by heat. It was the SR-71 watch of choice, and it went that way forever. Quartz crisis hits. Accutron starts to develop their own quartz movements, and then that sort of branches off. And they lose their way. It was still a sub-brand of Bulova going on well into the 2000s. Like, you get into the 90s, and they start to make this transition into more high-end quartz, and then also high-end mechanical. And then Bulova decides, like, okay, we'll make Accutron our Swiss movement sub-brand. And so the design starts to suffer, and things start to get really kind of weird. Yeah,
so that's what they're calling the AccuSwiss.
Not yet.
No?
AccuSwiss comes a little bit later, right? There's the sale of Bulova to Citizen in 2008, and then in 2010 is when the AccuSwiss stuff starts to happen, because they can't quite figure out how to market it. Was
that late?
It was that late. It was absolutely, it was that late. And then when did they go dark? The Bulova, or the Accutron movement, gets separated out. AccuSwiss runs from 2012 to like 2015, and then they go dark. And so they get rid of kind of the Accutron brand, and it's no longer part of the Bulova line. Then Bulova figures out, and they start the precisionist movement. And so they start the Accutron 2. And so it's Bulova Accutron 2. And like Mike and I both have those. And then KC, it's a similar movement as to what's in your Lunar Pilot too. So it's that same idea, but then they drop Accutron completely as a sub-brand. It's gone until 2020.
Yeah, it kind of annoys me.
It's weird, right? It's a really weird setup, because it's like it's this brand. It's got this, the mark has a very storied history. It has a lot of depth to it. The watches are maybe not quite bulletproof.
And that's like, well, that's like if all of a sudden, the Chevrolet allowed Camaro to become its own freaking company.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Or they just take the Silverado line and put it someplace else. It's a strange little thing. But part of the reasoning behind it, though, this is what it seems like, they go off and they develop the electrostatic movement.
Yeah.
And they're taking all of the design cues from the Space View, and they're doing all of this stuff. And so, like, the electrostatic, and this was sort of the launch of Accutron. But then Accutron goes out and they start marketing these Swiss mechanical watches again. And they're doing it in the retro style. So you've got the Alpha case style, which is this fantastic Space View. And it was part of the 150th reissue anniversary watch.
So that's one you didn't talk about that I was going to bring up, but they redid the
anniversary
tuning
fork. Let's talk about this because similar to Zenith, when the quartz crisis hit, and they said, we're not going to make this El Primero movement anymore. Just scrap all the tooling, get rid of it. And somebody took it all and squirreled it away up in the attic. Mm-hmm. Accutron's like, yeah, all right, fine, get rid of it. They can't make the index wheels. They've got trouble with the tuning forks. They haven't been able to rewrap any of the coils. So, you cannot send those watches back to Citizen for a service. It doesn't exist. There's like 3 guys, 4 guys. That's it.
Sad.
It's sad. But what you start to find is that Accutron decides we're going to reissue it. We're going to reissue it like 100th anniversary of the watch. We're going to knock one out. And they go and then remake one, but they have to reverse engineer based off of the original 214s.
Their own design.
Have to right. And according to the repair guys, it's not quite a 1-to-1, but it's real close. Mm-hmm. So like they went real close. So the original specs, you can almost swap the parts out, but the design is nearly identical. Electrostatic comes out, you do all that stuff, and you're in good shape. My issue is with some of the re-envisioned new Accutron stuff from 2020 and later. The Alpha has a crown on it. And it's like, okay, if it was a 218 movement, I'm okay with that. But it's not. It's a mechanical movement. Same thing with the TV dial. Same thing with the football. Same thing with, and they did all these other bits and pieces. And like, I understand the design cues. Kudos to Accutron for going with the reduced size, because those watches are all like, sub 38. They're little, but they're great. There's great presence on the wrist, great size. The finishing is really, really well done. They're just mechanical. They're not Accutron. And that's my beef. The electrostatic, I've worn one. I tried it on. It's a huge,
they're big.
Huge watch. It's big. And I was wearing the 2020, not the DNA, which has the shaped lugs, right? The hidden lugs. The
like
2020,
the lobster style case.
Yeah, the lobster, right. And so like the movement is really, really thick. It wears big, man. It wears really big.
So
and they're like at $3,000, $4,000.
Yeah.
And which when you start to think about it, is like from the 60s, it's not that far off from what, when you do the inflation ratio, it's not that far off. But it's like, man, that's a lot of money for that watch. And I keep waiting to see on the secondary market. They haven't come down.
Yeah, no, they haven't. Is it cool or is it gimmicky? What's your take on it?
I think it's cool. I'd own one.
Yeah.
I would have it. I would have it in my collection. Yeah, I would.
I think it's neat for what it is, but I think other than that, it's gimmicky. It's not. So they market it as a revolutionary new movement, and it really is. The way that the technology and the way that they're doing it. I mean, okay, so it's not revolutionary,
right?
Because it's a weird way of.
It's a weird setup because you got these turbines, and they run the stepper motor, which runs that runs and so it's all this weird sort of back and forth. Whereas the tuning fork movement itself, everything was run off of the same, and
Yeah.
the issue there was lacking in torque, and so you didn't see complications. Like day-date complication was about as deep as the Accutron movements got. Like, and then they market it to Omega. Omega does the F300, and that's where you get the chronograph stuff. But
Yeah.
not until. But Accutron never did a chronograph with those.
See, my problem with this electrostatic movement is you're not going to see that in any other watch.
No,
You're not going to see that movement put in anything else because it would have to be a ginormous piece. Because
It's
what's
gonna be
the
interesting.
dimensions on it now?
Oh, it's immense. It's like 45.
Okay,
And,
yeah, so it's
well above like 15 millimeters thick. I mean, it's big.
yeah.
So,
So
but see, the interesting thing for me, and we've talked about this a little bit. Mike and I have talked about this. There's been an interview with Mike Benavides, who's the managing director of Accutron, and he was in discussion and brought up the fact that
before you mention this is documented on video. We're not just coming up with this.
we're not. I'm not talking out my butt here.
You can go on YouTube and watch the interview.
He says they're going to attempt to bring back the tuning fork movement.
Not that they're going to attempt, that they're already in the development stages
It's in
of it.
development stages. Now, when is a question. However, we know that Max Herzl goes to work for Bulova in '58, and the Accutron debuts in October of 1960. 2 years. They have been reworking it. And this video that we saw was like probably from 2020. It was a while ago.
Yeah.
However, 2025, that's the anniversary, right? 1925 is when Bulova was founded. 100th anniversary, right?
That's what you're thinking, huh?
I don't think my math is wrong. Oh no, I'm sorry, I am wrong. 1875. So 2025 would be the 150th.
Oh wow, yeah, that'd be cool.
If
Hey,
you're
but you know what? I was just thinking. So I've unfortunately got 2 dead Accutrons, and I just can't part with them. But they're small. Well, I shouldn't say small, but they're reasonably sized.
They're 36 to 38 for the most part.
Yeah, so they're sized contemporary for their time.
Yeah.
I wonder, so back then they were able to do this feat of engineering and fit it into that case.
Yeah.
But nowadays it's more acceptable to wear 42s and up, and maybe that laziness allowed for this giant movement. If they didn't limit themselves with the constraint of saying, hey, I have to make this fit in a 38 or 39, I bet you they could have done it if that's what the societal.
Funny you bring that up, because I was having a conversation with Lauren, our prior guest, Watchmaker's daughter. She has a Precisionist, which is their new movement. The 262 hertz. It's got a sweep second hand. It's the same movement. She's got the ladies' version of that, and the only
Which
difference,
are like 34 millimeters.
the only difference is the battery. The movement's small enough. They could have made them smaller. They could have, and if you go and you find a ladies' one, it's the same movement.
The battery is the same size. It's what is it? Like a CR 2016 or whatever.
There's no difference. There's no difference in the movements. Movements are identical. Movement holder way bigger. Those watches could have been smaller. So that means that the Lunar Pilot could have been smaller.
Well, that's a different movement altogether, though. It's a 262 kilohertz.
But it still could have been. It could have been a little bit smaller. That's the point. And
with all the chronograph in there, I don't know.
It didn't have to be quite that big. And a couple millimeters on the Lunar Pilot, that would have made a huge difference for me personally.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. I don't know that they could have shrunk that down though. The three-hander Precisionist, I'll give you that one. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the three-handers. The chronographs. Okay, I'll concede maybe a point there, but the three-handers could be smaller.
To bring it full circle, what you're saying is they could have put the Precisionist in the new Legacy lines.
I believe so. Yes, I do believe so. But that means that we're looking at 150th anniversary coming up in 2025, in 2 years. And
So let me ask you this. So well, no, I guess not. I answered my own question. So
all right, you're welcome. Glad I could help
Yeah. Cut that out.
No, it's staying in.
you.
Gotta show our humanity.
All right. So that's Accutron in a nutshell.
So how long were they down? Well, what was the gap in between?
Oh, minor. I want to say it's like, so 2020 is when they launch as their own independent brand.
Mhm.
They kind of shutter as a company or as a line like 2015 is AccuSwiss,
2015.
and that's kind of it. So.
So for about a 5-year period.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
the thing that goes with it is like, okay, the Bulova didn't shutter. So it's like, a sub brand, and now we're going to kind of relaunch it as its own individual entity, but it's kind of not, because like if you carry Accutron, you probably have to carry Bulova. It's Bulova. What are you going to do?
Hmm. Yeah, Bulova.
Hashtag Bulova.
Yep.
So, last call, gentlemen.
So we got a couple things to talk about. I guess the first one. Well, no, I take that back. We had a couple things to talk about, but we really discussed the Von Reist watches in the beginning of the episode. We'll be doing a full review. So really, that leaves us with we're going to put together a charity auction to help with the relief of everything that's going on in Ukraine. We've kind of put our heads together and tried to figure out the best way to go about doing this. Do we work with a different platform? Do we do it on eBay? Do we try and how we're going to put this together? So basically what we decided on is we're going to do one lot on eBay. We're going to advertise it ourselves. If you guys are listening and you want to help us advertise once we get it out there, we greatly appreciate it. I mean, this is a cause that really should touch as many people as possible. So we're each donating a watch from our personal collections. I have one, Joel's got one, Casey's got one, and we are also donating one of our misprinted Spring Bar shirts. So in the auction, you're going to get 3 watches, 1 shirt, and that was it, right?
Unlimited bragging rights.
And yeah, there you go. So do we want to get into more specifics on it? Joe, do you have any more specifics?
Let's show the watches. Let's show the watches because we got them here. They already know what the shirt looks like. It looks like the one Mike's wearing, but not quite as good. What is that, Mike?
So this is a ladies. This is a 1969 Caravel. I could tell you the name of it, but I don't have the line book handy, and I forget exactly what it is. This is very small. This is a 22 millimeter watch. I believe it's an 11 or 12 millimeter strap, but it is in excellent shape. It is a chrome plated case that has no nicks, no scratches, no wearing, no chipping, no nothing. Case back is perfect. The dial is a 9.5 out of 10, clear crystal, and I've done a movement swap out here. This thing keeps excellent time. I forget exactly the rate in which it is. I'd have to test it again, but it's just a phenomenal little watch. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but if you're gonna buy 2 other watches, you get something for your lady friend, so you can't go wrong with that.
So, Casey, what do you got that's going in this auction?
I got a Soto Marino. It's probably not said well.
Bless you.
But this is new old stock.
It is new old stock.
Mm-hmm.
Never been worn.
Right. It's never been worn. It's just not a watch that I connected with. It's a quartz powered watch. You can see it running right there. It's got a bidirectional 12-hour bezel. It's got a date complication, all stainless steel. See here, it's advertised as 100-meter water resistance. So yeah, I mean it's a good looking watch. Certainly a good beater watch.
All right, I will be bringing in Accutron.
Ooh.
Can we get a
Does
little bit of
Does the
shout out
box
for the reflection?
come with it?
Accutron 2210 men's version, double hang tags, original core frame strap, brown dial, goldish case, working well.
Slightly
and
worn.
Original box. So that will be my contribution.
That is probably the best.
Yeah,
The
probably.
best thing.
Yeah. And you get
And wait, move it a little bit over.
which way? This way.
Yeah,
There
it's
you
got to be
go.
off centered, right?
Oh yeah. So like this. So I say it's off centered. It's not horrible. If I didn't say anything, whoever won it probably wouldn't see. But you get to be like us, Spring Bar
Perfect.
Podcast T-shirt in a large. So even if you don't wear a large, give it to somebody who does.
Look, it's off center to the guy who runs a car detailing business. So those guys you can never please.
That's true.
I'll
You
pick
can
the
never
best of the
please those
two.
guys.
Yeah. No, you can. It just got to be perfect.
It's either right or it's not. Very black and white.
Yeah. So those are the three watches that we're going to have. You can bid on them. Everything's going to be in one lot, one auction. It's not going to be separate ones. You're going to get everything. So bid to win. It's going to a good cause. We're not taking any money.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. Did we decide exactly which organization we're going to, or are we still kind of deciding on that one? Yeah, absolutely. So we'll definitely, when we get everything ready, we got to get everything all in one central location first. So I think it's all going to Joe. He's going to be handling the shipping portion of it all. So once everything is in one spot, then we'll put together an advertising campaign. We'll get all the words out. And then please, if you're listening, spread the word, help us. The more we can raise, the better off these people are going to be. And again, benefits us in no way. We're donating our time, we're donating our watches to try and help make the world a better place in whatever small way that we can do that. So please, when you see it come up, head on over, make a bid. Even if it's a small amount, every little bit helps.
So, how can we get in touch? Mike?
So the three of us, we make the Spring Bar Podcast. You can reach us on Instagram at the Spring Bar Podcast. You can email us, the Spring Bar Podcast at gmail.com. On a personal level, I am Mike. I am 120 clicks, all spelled out one word, 120 clicks. Joe?
I am Watch Taylor Youth, all spelled out. Watch Taylor EUPHKC.
I am time_hack1636, and I also have the YouTube channel Time Hack. So that's it. All right, we're good.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
I'm gonna go-
anything else
I'm
you
gonna
got
do the outro
to
now.
throw with us? You can give us a hashtag the Spring Bar Podcast. We were more than happy to feature your watch shots. Or if there's anything that you want, if you want to advertise something that's going out and you want to be doing a little bit for your part for Ukrainian refugees, let us know and we'll be happy to advertise that as well. So Spring Bar Podcast, you can reach us on Instagram. You can hashtag us. We'll be sure to get that out through all of our various channels as well.
Absolutely. All right.
Well, guys, on the way out, if you're followed by the same person for more than 2 minutes, you're being stalked. You can't stay here. You don't got to go home. Figure it out, guys. It's been great. Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.